Hello and welcome to the top Hearthstone cards of the week, where we look at some fan-made Hearthstone cards from the r/custom Hearthstone subreddit. I am your host, Unida dos Etapa 3, and first up we have Fungal Growth, 2-mana spell for Druid that reads choose one, summon a 0/2 mushroom or summon a 0/2 mushroom for your opponent. And these mushrooms read at the end of your turn, summon a 0/2 mushroom. So the idea of this card is it slowly fills your board or your opponent's board with 0/2 mushrooms. If you choose your board, this is good for you because 2 mana and 4 turns later, you could have a board of 0/2s. And using the plethora of board buffs Druid has, you can make these inexpensive minions valuable. But if you choose to give your opponent the mushroom, the advantage of the mushroom is to take up spaces on your opponent's board so they can't play minions. That's the basic idea of this card, and some may be worried about the powerful effect of filling your opponent's board with 0/2s, but let's first talk about spawning the mushrooms on your side of the board. The 2 mana gets you 2 0/2s at the start of your opponent's turn, and I think this card would have a similar board presence to Primal Fin Totem. Back when Angora was released, this was a surprisingly good card. The similarities are they're both 0 attack minions that are possible threats down the line. With Fungal Growth, it's the future board buffs you have to worry about, and if you can't clear the first wave of 0/2s, you're going to continuously have to deal damage if you want to remove all the mushrooms. Now these are just 0/2s, so cheap board clears like Consecration or Spell Power Maelstrom Portal, or 2 rounds of Defile could clear these easily. Still, the value of your opponent using a board clear or sending damage into 0/2s is often worth 2 mana. I really like this card because it's a cheap and constant board filler, which is something board buffing Druid needs. The reason aggro token Druid worked well in Angora is because cards like Firefly and Patches could help fill the board, and at the time, minions like Ravasaur Runt were good enough to work in the deck. Instead of going aggro, I would love to see this card help board buffing Druid go more tempo, because right now, Druid has plenty of cards that buff minions, just not enough ways to refill the board. But now I want to look at the other side of the card, giving your opponent the 0/2 mushroom. So at the start of their turn, they have a 0/2 mushroom. They could either 1, get rid of it, and I think this would be tough for most classes, maybe a bit easier for Mage, Rogue, or Paladin, but a lot of this still requires you to draw the correct cards to deal with the problem immediately. The second option to countering this is just playing minions on your board. I know it's scary imagining a board filled with 7 0/2s and there's nothing you can do, but I doubt this would actually happen often. Depending on the class you're playing, I'd say that on average, most players maintain 3 minions on the board, maybe fluctuating the number with trades and playing more minions. The key thing about the mushroom is it spawns another minion at the end of your opponent's turn. So your opponent will know how many mushrooms will spawn and can play minions or destroy mushrooms to make sure they have enough space on the board to continue playing minions. Let's say it's 2 turns after you gave them the mushroom. They now have 2 mushrooms out on the board. You spent 2 mana giving them 2 0/2s instead of playing a minion or clearing one of theirs with a spell, so it's likely they have board control. As long as they can keep 2 or 3 minions on the board by the end of their turn, then their gameplay isn't really hindered that much, because they control how crazy the mushrooms get. All they have to do is clear the mushrooms, draw, and play minions, or ignore them if they don't need board space to win. It's still a good card though. I think mushrooms could hinder more aggressive later game, force your opponent to overextend minions to ensure board space, and because of the filled board, force them to attack with their minions before playing other minions that could have battle cries or charges that would result in better trades. It's constantly something your opponent would have to think about, but it's rarely going to fill your opponent's board so they can't play anything. Another thing to consider is perhaps this is the only time where Druid having poor board clears is actually a good thing, because Swipe wouldn't kill the mushrooms and Starfall, while not actually played, would have a reason to use the 5 mana 5 damage. So Druid's lack of board clears actually means the mushrooms would probably stay on your opponent's board for a while. Really great card, but I doubt it would be in a top tier deck. If it was a heavily used card, I could see this getting old fast, but I just don't think it's powerful enough, and that's probably a good thing. I think it would be fun to see this in a somewhat competitive tempo Druid buffing deck with the option to meme. Next we have Old Gummers, 7 mana, 7/16 neutral beast that reads this minion can't attack. At the end of your turn, attack the minion with the lowest health. Wow, this is crazy. Anytime you have a minion with greater stats than Ultrasaur, you gotta check yourself. It's Ultrasaur. He's supposed to be king. First thing, I think this should be a Hunter card. Now you don't have to deal with the Priest Silence, Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, or any other overpowered class issues. I think Hunter could use the board control, and this would give them that without working for aggro. They could still use Ironbeak Owl to silence it, but for a 2-card combo, and one of them being a legendary, it's not consistent enough to be a competitive issue. Next, let's address the stats. At 7 mana, it's not a cheap card. Now I know it looks weird having the 16 health, but don't you remember Ultrasaur looking weird when it came out? You need to get pretty good value when putting a 7-cost card in your deck. So that means for this card to work, it should, over time, clear a couple minions. But that means it needs to stay on board long enough to do this, which means a lot of health is needed. Maybe the card finishes off an injured 4/3, a 2/3, and a 6/6. That's great value for 7 mana, but that's also over 4 turns, and you've had to control the board with resources in order for Old Gummers to get those trades. Now it's a 7/4 that you still can't attack with, and your opponent can either clear it or put more bait out for you to try to clear and get the best trade value. It's by no means a bad card, card, and if a Control Hunter deck could be built around it, I think it's pretty nice. I'm just saying the 16 health stat is not as powerful as it seems, but there is one conflicting opinion I have, and based on whether you think the card is too powerful or just right, you may be on one side or the other, but I don't know if this card should be a beast. Now there are build-a-beast combos like Scavenging Hyena and Rat Pack that could be powerful, but the same issue of reliability wouldn't really make those viable strats. What I really fear is taunting a 16 health minion. Now maybe because Ultrasaur is too expensive and weak to play, people don't play that and then taunt it up the next turn, but blocking your opponent with a 16 health taunt is pretty kooky. Again, this is hard to tell because I don't think there's even a Control Hunter to back this card up, but having this as a taunt out there that slowly dwindles in health and controls the board is probably the most Hunter way of making a control deck work. I'm leaning towards it being fine as a Beast Hunter card, but you'll have to let me know if you think keeping it a beast is room for too much exploitation. Now we can finally talk about the great part about this card. It's like a more interactive combination of Ragnaros and Swamp King Dread. Ragnaros is great and Swamp King sucks, we know that much, but this card allows you to weigh your options while this is on board and dictate what type of resources you want to use to get the end of turn trade you want. It encourages hunters to clear boards and use their other resources to try to get the most value from this card. Now most of the time the 7 attack is enough to kill something, but if there's ever a minion to combo with the worst card in all of Knights of the Frozen Throne expansion, Toxic Arrow might actually combo with this card. Also, I'm not sure how secrets would work with this card, like Noble Sacrifice or any minion attack based secrets. I would imagine since you aren't actually clicking and controlling the attack, it wouldn't count and wouldn't activate the secret. Let me know if you're aware of any interactions in the game that could dictate whether or not the secret would go off. Another interesting interaction from the dream of all Hunter players is that this card would actually go around taunts, but instead of going face, it would be to the lowest health minion. Sorry Rexar. The stats may be intimidating for this minion, but by making it a Hunter card to negate most overexploiting, it lets the true nature of the card shine as a flavorful control minion that allows you to dictate what minions you want to clear. Next up we have Tekken Druis, 2 mana 2/2 Warlock legendary that reads Battlecry, block the next Battlecry effect. It's only right for Warlock to have an anti-brand, so blocking the next Battlecry effect is meant to work in 2 ways, either negating one of your opponent's Battlecries or one of your negative Warlock Battlecries like Flame Imp or Doomguard. Now I could see it being confusing for new players when their opponent counters their Battlecry on their turn, so I think to translate that their next Battlecry will be blocked for your opponent, if you end the turn without playing a Battlecry, a secret should appear above your hero, where your opponent can hover over it and it tells them that the next Battlecry is blocked. Then, if no Battlecries are played, at the start of your turn the secret goes away because you can't activate secrets on your turn, but the effect doesn't go away until there's a Battlecry played by either player. This way both players know what's going on. But this actually gets me a bit stuck because if this is how the card worked and it showed up as a secret on your opponent's turn, would Eater of Secrets work? Now we know that Eater of Secrets Battlecry works before a secret, but if the secret is to block a Battlecry, what comes first? I think Tekken Druis would block the Battlecry because right now Counterspell beats Flare, but that one's up to you guys. So Battlecries are in practically every deck, and your opponent may have to change their turn's plan, but for the most part this card can easily be played around with cheap and weak Battlecries. Where I think this card could actually work in a deck is to prevent Warlock's own negative Battlecries. Comboing this with Doomguard or Lakari Fellhound is great in a deck looking for charge damage or taunt and not the discard effect. But still, it's kind of a clunky card in the real Hearthstone world. I would actually compare this to Hobart Grapplehammer. It's similar to Hobart because it's a one-off legendary, 2 mana 2/2, and unless it has a relevant or powerful effect, it probably won't see competitive play. But you'll never catch me saying it's better than Hobart, he's a good friend. If there was a Warlock card with such a negative Battlecry that getting this combo was crazy powerful, then this could work in a special control deck. I think it's just a meme card, but if you think of a kooky way to change up the card to make it more competitive, what if it was Battlecry, gain control of the opponent's next Battlecry? So for example, your opponent uses Kazakus, they play it, and nothing happens. But at the beginning of your turn, you craft the Kazakus spell. Or if they target one of your minions with Bomb Squad, it does nothing, and you deal the 5 damage to an enemy minion at the beginning of your turn. Mind Control attack at the start of your turn would take an opponent's random minion if they had 4 to choose from. You could see how this would be a bit of a cheeky version, and it's kind of fun to think of how certain Battlecries would work. For the most part, your opponent can play around the effect relatively easily with weak Battlecries, which will still get you value of freezing a character or drawing a card. I think it would be worth the 2 mana 2/2 stats, but maybe with my change it would synergize more with Rogue as opposed to Warlock. My last suggestion is make it a warrior card, get rid of the Battlecry altogether, and instead make the Battlecry give all weapons in your hand to deck, +1 it. Wait a second. Next up we have Embrace Your Power, 1 mana secret for Paladin that reads, when one of your minions is attacked, give it lifesteal. Simple but elegant card. Paladin secret means most likely it will be discovered off of Hydrologist, because running any secrets on its own just isn't enough value. But let's say you're playing against aggro, you're low in health, you can put this secret out there in a card like Taunt Creeper to get an easy 3 heal. In addition, whenever talking about secrets, all other possible secrets change how your opponent may play. So as an opponent attacking into this Taunt Creeper example, they may attack with patches first to play around Noble Sacrifice. This means you get the 3 heal and your Taunt Creeper still has 4 health, so you'll likely end up getting more heal from your opponent trading more minions in. Unless of course they just kill it with a spell. I really like Paladin secrets because the price point at 1 mana values them as low impact cards, and the accessibility with Hydrologist allows these low impact cards to see play in Hearthstone. And this usually doesn't happen because just by the nature of building strong decks, the game discourages low impact cards and encourages the strongest cards. I always say when a game of Hearthstone allows you to play bad cards in a competitive matchup, it's going to lead to more unique and entertaining games. And I think this is just another one of those cards that could add more flavor to the game. And last up we have the Big Mama Ragnaros the Gravelord. 8 mana 8/8 priest legendary that reads, at the end of your turn summon a friendly minion that died this game. 9 months ago when this card was posted, I don't think it would have actually been an amazing card. You could end up summoning minions like Northshire Clerk or Cabal Talon Priest, etc, etc. But now there's Big Priest. And I'm a little scared to make Big Priest better, even if it's only a tier 3 deck now, because the gameplay is very RNG based. But adding this card could easily bump it up to a tier 2 deck. It's a good card to get when summoning a minion, and it also gives you the resummoning value over time. On the board, it immediately becomes a priority. It has the stat advantage over the wild card Kel'Thuzad, probably not pronouncing that right, and it works better in Big Priest, where you'd rather have the random minion pool be from those that have died as opposed to those on board, which is actually a kind of rare aesthetic for a type of deck. You could argue why one Ragnaros is better than the other, but I think Gravelord fits Priest quite nicely. You'll have to let me know if you think this would be good for Hearthstone overall, because you are adding a card like this to help Big Priest. And now we have the user submission. If you want to submit your cards, you can do so on my Twitter or email. Info is all in the description below, but make sure when you send me the cards, you don't send just the links from the card creating websites. Those end up expiring and I can't see your cards. Instead, download the cards as a PNG file and then email or tweet me those. Plus, post them to the r/custom Hearthstone. You might as well, right? Last episode I asked y'all for egg submissions, and I actually got so many that I'm gonna have to make a separate video for those. But this week's submission from James is Adal, Light of Shatar. Perhaps there's some World of Warcraft or the Mummy lore to this card's name, but to me it just sounds like you made up words that sound cool. 'Tis me, Adal, Light of Shatar. Anyways, 10 mana 0/2 legendary paladin minion with the battle cry, change all minions attack to 0 and give all points taken to this minion's attack. I like this one. It's like having the Sunkeeper Term or Aldor Peacekeeper effect, but getting those stats instead of them just going away. There is the problem of your enemy's entire board being 0 attack minions, kind of like the mushroom ideas, but I think there's a couple of different solutions to this issue. First option is you drop all minions attack just to 1. This way they can still attack with their minions, they can have their board, and blah blah blah. My other, more radical solution, the same battle cry, but in addition, all enemy minions morph together into 1. So, for example, you've got a bomb squad on your board. Your opponent has 2 Silverhand Recruits, a Tar Creeper, and Ragnaros Lightlord. Adal gets the 13 attack from your opponents and 2 more attack from your bomb squad, making it a 15-10. Now you have a 0/2 bomb squad, and your opponent combines their minions to make a 0-15 with 2 attack on your turn, taunt, and heal 8 to a friendly character at the end of their turn. It's still a super powerful play, but still limited because it's not a very flexible card. 10 mana means you have to enter your turn with a board that works for this card. Plus it makes your minions relatively useless on your side of the board, while at the same time creating 1 minion for each player that can be easily destroyed with single target removal. The catch is your minion is probably going to be more valuable than their minion, so if both players end up using single target removal, most likely they're going to get more value out of theirs because your minion's probably going to be better. I like the idea of this version of the card creating a single target for both players, and the combination and situations this card could create would be crazy. Let me know if there are any other crazy combos that would actually break my version of the card or the current version of the card, because I definitely could have missed something that would make this not work. But that's been the top Hearthstone cards of the week. Thank you for watching, and until next time, ta-ta.